lesson, we'll be talking about quadratic translations. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to identify the quadratic parent graph and see the effects of the transformation and graph using those transformations. So translation means that the figure slides without changing the size or the shape from the parent graph, which is y equals x squared. So the values of h and k are what cause the graph to translate. So the a, remember, is the direction of the parabola and the size. And the h and k are our vertex. So how h affects the parent graph? If h is negative, the translation of the graph goes that many units to the left. If h is positive, it translates the graph that many units to right. But remember that when we're looking at the h, we don't include the minus sign. How does k affect the graph? Well, if k is negative, it translates the graph that many units down. If k is positive, it translates the graph that many units up. So for example, the following is a graph-quadratic equation and its translation. So the blue line here is the parent graph. That's the y equals x squared. So that's the equation of that one. And then the red line, see how it moved over? It kind of slid right over 2 places to the right. So the equation changed by saying y equals x minus 2, even though it's going right, squared. So write an equation of the function g of x and describe the parent graph. So we have g of x is equal to f of x plus d, where d is 2. So all that means is we're going to take the graph and we're going to translate it up 2 places because the d is plus 2 because that's actually the k. So we have our blue line, which is the parent, and then we went up 2 spots. All right, we're going to sketch this parent graph and this one of the new equation. So we can see that this is x minus 3 squared, which means it's going right 3 places. So when we graph it, we have our parent graph of the blue one, and we go right 3 places, which means that our parabola is now sitting at the x, x equals 3, so that means our vertex is 3, 0. All right, sketch the functions on the same grid and identify the vertex, describe the translation. So the first one we can see from our parent graph, y equals x squared, is going plus 1. So plus 1 means it's going left 1. The second one says we're going right 3 and plus 1. So that means it's going minus 3, so that's going right 3, and then it's going up 1. So we graph both of those. And we can see that the blue one went left 1, and the red one went right 1 and up 3. So my total change is right 4 and up 1. The longitudinal section of a canyon makes a parabola shape that has an equation y equals 2 times x minus 3 squared minus 18. Where x and y are measured in kilometers. If the depth of the canyon is 18, how long is the distance between 2 sides? So you can see in this picture, it's a parabola, and we're trying to find the distance between those 2 sides. Now notice in our equation that there's a 2 in front of the x minus 3, which means that we don't really know the shape of it, whether it's gotten wider or skinnier. So we're going to have to graph this to see what happened. So we'll use that equation, we'll plug in numbers. We know that the is 3 negative 18 because we can see that it went right 3 and down 18. So we've got our vertex. So if we fill in the rest of our table, so we start at 318, and then we go a couple to one side and a couple to the other side. And then we graph this parabola. We can see what we're looking for in our question is the zeros. So it would be at 0, and the other one crosses the x-intercept at 6. So the distance between 0 and 6 is 6. So how does the h affect the graph? The h tells us left and right. Remember not to include the minus sign when you're looking at the h. The k tells us how we move up and down.